going on YouTube? I got a little topic to talk about that I kind of see on YouTube quite often, comparing motorcycles, and I also noticed it when I was looking into getting motorcycles. So let's talk about it for a sec. So when I first got into thinking about getting a cruiser, there was a good amount of options that I was looking at. So the bikes that I was checking out, getting into cruisers after getting rid of my R6, were this, of course, the Yamaha Bolt, mostly because I had some really good reviews. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on people that absolutely love the bike, didn't have a lot of problems with the bike, loved the way it sounded with the Vance and Hines. The aerodynamics of the bike was nice, the feel of the bike was nice, and there wasn't really a lot of negativity towards this motorcycle. Another one that I was looking at was the Iron 883 from Harley Davidson, because from what I've actually ridden an 883 and what I've seen and also heard is this is a, I wouldn't say a copycat sort of word, but it was kind of like a mirror image of the Iron 883, and I do agree in some aspects. They're kind of built both as, I don't know, I would say a beginner cruiser or a bobber, if you want to call it a bobber. So I checked out that bike, and I was actually going to buy the Iron 883 before I kind of did some research on motorcycles. I'm also not a pussy, for what you want to call it. I mean, I went from a Yamaha R6 to a Yamaha Bolt, which has a little under 900 cc's of an engine. I believe it has more torque than the R6, less horsepower, bigger cc's. So that's where you get your power difference. A lot of parallel twins and V-twins don't have that super huge horsepower factor. They do have a good amount of torque though. Torque is like 0 to 60 faster than another motorcycle. That's really your torque. Horsepower is all considered top speed. So cc's really means, I mean, it means something when it comes to motorcycles, but it doesn't mean anything at the same aspect as if you were, I guess if you were to compare the same category of bikes, then it means something. But when you compare different categories from naked bikes to sport bikes to cruisers to bobbers, it kind of varies. So if you're comparing a sport touring or just a sport bike like a FZ09 or a FZ07 or a Ducati Monster, those kind of bikes, with a sport bike it's almost the same factor. Like I know the FZ07 is a parallel twin, the same as an Ninja 650. It means something to a point, but it also depends on the motor and how the bike is built. The cc's is just the motor, the way that, how many cc's the motor puts out. So if you were to say, like you try and compare two sport bikes, Ninja 650 and a ZX6R. The 650 has 50, I think a little bit, I think it's like a 599 cc. The 650 has 50 more horsepower, 51 more horsepower, whatever, than the ZX6. But the 650 is a parallel twin, the ZX6 is an inline 4. So you got to kind of pay attention when it comes to those kind of things for newer riders or people looking to upgrade, because the cc's doesn't always mean more power. So back to the concept, from this bike to the Iron 883, the cc's is different, the look of the bike is very similar. The reason I did not get an 883 over this, one, I could not find a Harley Davidson motorcycle, even if it was a Sportster 72 or a Dyna. And I didn't really want to go as big as a Dyna, but I couldn't find that under like $8,000 unless it was an older model, which I didn't want. I didn't want to downgrade from a 2006 model sport bike to a 2000 model cruiser. Like I just didn't want to. If I was getting a cruiser, I wanted it to be newer, if not brand new, because I don't want to deal with putting money into bikes like I did with my R6. So the reasons I got this over the 883, one, the CCs, two, the look of the bike. The bars are different, the build is different, your switches, your left switch and your right switch are very simple. Like I've owned a Yamaha, so it's very similar to the R6, just in cruiser fashion. The tanks, I mean, who's gonna lie and say that the Yamaha Bolt tank isn't better than the Harley 883 tank with the looks? The seat, well, the look, the stitching, this is the R spec, so I wasn't going to get a regular Bolt. It just wasn't going to happen. You could tell the difference of suspension, everything. Another reason is the suspension is better on the Bolt, on the R spec anyways. The brakes, and I was a fan of the tachometer or the speedometer, kind of until I owned it. But I'm going to save that video for later in another video about things that I don't like about this bike. But I was also looking into like the Vulcans. I looked at a couple Sportster 72s. I was looking at some Suzukis, and I'm just not really a fan of Suzuki unless it's a Gixxer. That's more or less going to be my next sport bike, unless something comes across and I can pay cash within the next year for the new 2017 R6, because I will not buy an older R6. So those are really the reasons why. They're almost the same bike, just also different. So I kind of like the mirrors on the Bolt as well. The mirrors are very nice. They do shake though. I think a lot of it has to do with this exhaust, but I do like it more. I am waiting on my dad and my brother to get here though, because we are going to go on a cruise. So I will catch you guys when that happens. So I didn't get to vlog last night when I went on a cruise. So just to follow up though, those are kind of the reasons why I purchased the Bolt over the Iron 883. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not talking down on that bike at all. It's a beautiful bike and I love it. I could just personally tell the difference in power from riding this to riding that. And coming from a 600 Super Sport to a cruiser, I needed to have some sort of power, and the 883 just didn't have enough for me. Those are kind of the reasons why this was my option, and this is why I chose this bike. And it's a beautiful bike, and I can tell you, anybody looking to get into it or comparing it to other bikes to purchase, it's going to be a great opportunity for you. It's going to be a great purchase. I promise you'll enjoy it. I personally haven't had any issues, but like I said before, on my next video I'm going to do like 5, maybe 10 things that I don't like about this bike, considering I've talked positive about it most of the time. Maybe we'll do my top favorite things about it. As of now, guys, that's pretty much it. So just enjoy the rest of the ride. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.